What's up, Army? Welcome back to Redemption 46 Studios. I'm Nick.
I'm Curtis. And I'm Zach.
You know the vibes. Y'all saw the picture. Y'all saw the thumbnail. Y'all know why y'all here.
Why are they here?
BTS. Why aren't you subscribed yet? Maybe you should go hit that subscribe button and become a real redeemer today.
Dang.
If you like fire content, you're going to love it here. If you love being Army, make sure you join the Patreon. It's exclusive drip over there. We have, I think, another live performance of this up on there prior to the one that's already on the YouTube. We got the new Stretchy Tie episodes that all just dropped on there. The album reviews, almost for everything, should be up on there as well. You're definitely going to want to jump on there for Suge content as well. I think by the time y'all watching this, everything should have dropped for him. So we should be getting into some of the reviews for all of that, and like maybe the album review might be done depending on how fast we moved. But essentially it's going to be all this like BTS content up there and Suge content and everything up there. And before we jumped into this, I just wanted to give a special shout out to J-Hope. It's a very, very stressful day for a lot of like Army. We praying for you. We're very proud of you and very happy at the same time. Hopefully, you know, this is going to be an experience that he can grow from, maybe write some tracks or something about it. And also hopefully it goes by very fast because we want him home, him and Jin home as fast as possible.
If I could also double down on that real quick, just to say, also shout out to Jin in the sense of, you know, being, you know, so kind of nurturing and like, you know, everything as far as like taking him under his wing, kind of everyone was saying he was like, you know, putting him on, letting him know it's not as stressful or anything, like you're cool, you know, don't worry. And really just taking him under his wing and kind of preparing him for the process of going in and everything.
Jin doing Jin things.
You know, that's just, you know, really special for sure. And I'm sure that must have meant so much to Hobie, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how that process works with the rest of the members. But definitely, you know, shout out to them as well.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the only good thing. Well, I ain't gonna say only good thing, but one of the good things that are probably happen now since members are kind of already in or, you know, transitioning in is by the time even some of the younger members get to go in at that point, you'll have 3 or 4 brothers kind of telling you about the experience, either being in there with you or leaving or coming out kind of at the same time. So
it doesn't seem like it, at least to my notion, is that like, you know, whoever ends up going quote unquote last is going to go in with someone as opposed to like being, you know, off on their own or anything like that. So I'm assuming at least that might be kind of how something like that works. But all that to say, they'll all have kind of the support of each other in one form or another.
But yeah, man, y'all know what it is, man. Is a song that I remember being very dope when we first heard it. I felt like what happened was such a banger, but then I heard like dang and something else, and that kind of took over in my mind a little bit.
This may have, if I'm not mistaken as well, been one of the first rap kind of centric subunit tracks that we had checked out. So that's always really interesting too, especially knowing kind of what we know now about, you know, either, you know, some of the ciphers perhaps and just kind of other things that they've gotten into in their own respective solo work. Each of them respectively, and I don't even know that this was anything intentional, more so just coincidence, but each of them have now all respectively dropped an album. So it's just, that's really interesting in and of itself too.
Yeah, so yeah, these revisits have been super fun. Really wasn't sure how the Redeemers would take it, but mostly everyone's been happy about like revisiting and just, I guess, us having kind of like our Army eyes open at this point now and being able to pick up on different things that we missed when we first like got into it.
Yeah, and also you don't want to lose any bit of the art in the sense of like, you know, kind of that adjusting process, like, you know, because they clearly put so much thought and attention and detail into all this. You know, so us to be able to kind of go back and re-examine it in a different eye, you know, kind of with different perspective, you know, it'll bring a lot to us for sure, and hopefully it's something that you all enjoy as well.
Yeah, and guess what we getting into on the Patreon?
What is that?
Explained. DK TV, he's been killing it with all the explained videos, been putting us on to more information and stuff with everything. So we're going to react to this, absorb this, and then jump into that and learn some more information after we're done talking about it.
Awesome.
Let's get into this.
Let's see what we got. Fire the clip.
오늘의 방송 입증한 신의 강속 모두 시작한 동동동 동네 보기냐 동동동 동동 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 동동
That progression.
The okay.
I always love that moment too.
Because it sounds like okay.
And I'm sure they intended that.
That means something. I forget what it means.
Oh yeah. I love how that bass kick comes in with the okay. You just feel that aggression.
J-Hope. Let me do this.
Flow is incredible too.
It's decent because it sounds like I'm saying like, who cares?
I wouldn't doubt that there's like 3 or 4 probably doubles within that alone.
Woo! This one they like.
Now I'm remembering back on that live performance too. And they got like the boxing drip on and everything.
They had the boxing joints on and the robes.
They're ready for a fight.
Yeah, fun fact, they really were shooting at haters right there.
Mic drop.
Yeah, man, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Don't even comment. Caught you. Hit the subscribe button and become a real redeemer today. Also, make sure you guys jump on the Patreon. I can't wait to get into the explain just because I forget what that means. The course means like something, and that shit is like leaving my mind. But nah, what I was whispering to Kurt and I was telling him is just like we already know BTS has like a bunch of like double entendres and everything too. So some of that stuff in the chorus, even when it's saying things that sound like something in English, most of the time like Rapline is doing that on purpose. So it'll sound, kind of like okay, and then kind of like mean something.
It's also
else
like, I'm imagining at least to the kind of English translation of what that perhaps could be as far as the double entendre is like, you're hearing all this kind of shit talking going on about you, and it's like, oh, okay,
It's
okay,
like, okay,
like, that's what you think.
okay.
All right, all right. And then it's kind of like, okay, so then you kind of step out to that ring, you're like ready to fight, and it's like the building of like, it's kind of ironic. It's like the pace builds, but their voices like deepen to kind of kind of hone in on that aggression of like getting frustrated with the hate. For then the rap verses to kind of be like the punch to all that as well. So I thought that was really cool, and also the drum pattern was like you were feeling the bass or the drum, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of you were feeling like the punch of it. For each of the kind of like the moments when they were saying like the sounding homophone of okay or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and that's just literally on one side of the coin. So it's like, and that's only in the hook really, as far as, so there's so much to be kind of explored within that as well.
And those would be production cues that kind of keep your mind kind of on point with just even like the okays and remember what's the right word and shit. It's like when how can I word this? because I was about to say the Rhythmatics. But it's a repetitive like rhythm to kind of get stuck in your head associated with the hook. That a drill, they're literally using the bass to drill that into your head to kind of get stuck with you. So that way when it loops around next time, it's like, okay, not so much tempo and shit. It's really like I was about to almost say a rhythmic pattern to get stuck in your head. Oh no, it certainly is the tempo, but the whole phrase I'm talking about is just it's really a hook. Someone's like, you just talking about the hook, but the hook really gets stuck.
No, I know
what
you mean. I feel like there is a more specific name to kind of what you're saying as well.
Yeah,
but I get the essence of everything you're saying with that too.
And not to mention that like at least to my naked ears, it also sounds like not only is like the okay there. It also kind of get flips to at least sound like who cares, or like kind of like one of those things, or I'm just hearing shit.
I could hear it though.
And it kind of alludes back to the point where that's kind of how I took it too, where it's just like if you are dissing and shit, okay, who cares? Kind of like thing and shit. So it's just that's.
But it's also and briefly to kind of tie that in as well as the okay thing is like that okay could be like the frustration of like building up like I'm getting frustrated. Okay, like okay, you done? Like we're ready. Now we fight. Like that's
now we fight.
Yeah, right. Anyway, but so all that to say, it's like even if it's on that side of the coin, kind of like okay, we're ready to fight now, sort of thing. But it could also be like the kind of more monotone, like accepting thing of like okay. Like that's what you got to say. It's like, okay. You know what I mean? But I'm tying that in with the whole bulletproof aspect as far as like not letting things phase us to where it's like, okay, okay, no big deal. Like, that's like the shots you're throwing.
Which would also be like linked with the gunshots on here too, where they might per se not be shots at haters, but haters shooting at them and them just bouncing back almost or bouncing off.
And it's also respectively, like I said, that reciprocation of like if that's anything that's going to come at me, then it's only ultimately going to bounce off and be shot right back at you, seemingly, as far as like the whole kind of diss aspect. But also reason I'm bringing that up is to say with things like mic drop and things that we had heard, because also in the very beginning you hear that kind of traditional sound in the production. And granted, I don't know the cultural significance of that instrument or anything, but it sounds very traditional. And we know kind of what we have seen of the uses of like honorifics and things like that over there as far as like respect and either to those who have been in the profession, the same profession as you longer, or those who are just older or anything like that. Anyway, all that to say is like basically if you're taking these shots from those who are kind of looking down on you from like the elder perspective, I think the flipping of the traditional kind of hues in the production, then with the kind of gunshots or something like that is kind of really interesting how they're kind of going about it from that regard. At least to what I'm not mistaken. And I assume, I could be completely wrong, but I assume at least that Suge had a hand in this production. I would at least assume. Anyway, all that to say, I thought that would have been really interesting as well. And the reason I'm kind of bringing that up is also to say, because what Arm had said in the whole, and this isn't in this particular song, but I believe it was Cypher 2, if I'm not mistaken, where he's like where he said sorry Bay and everything like that, and it was a reference to Sanbei and Hobei as far as someone but he was basically taking away the honorific of anyone who's below us or anyone who's above us to say
four.
Yeah.
So
but
I
all that to say is like, so I'm saying they've kind of toyed with that idea within, things like mic drop and things like some of the ciphers, some more of the rap type energy as far as kind of responding to haters. So all that to say with the production in that kind of hue, I wouldn't doubt if they did, or at least had the same intention with something here. So I thought that came through, really amazingly as well.
Yeah. Also, another thing I wanted to add, especially for people who are like new to the channel, shout out to all the new Army who found this today.
Thank you.
Or just even the last week. Thank you. Go watch all the old content. And if you love us, subscribe on the Patreon and support the channel. I'm gonna always have respect for them, like Rapline in particular, when it comes to addressing the haters, just because I've said this on older videos, but I just wanted to double down honestly. The energy that a lot of rappers have in this day and age is more so to run to social media or to like kind of just be shady when it comes to like discussing haters or just talking about people who are like preying on their downfall. I respect Rapline for being able to essentially diss people, but either being like funny about it, doing kind of what maybe Drake and a few other people do by like kind of turning diss songs into like turn up songs almost, and really just addressing haters, putting them in their place, and then kind of keeping it moving, and being able to do it like in such a decent manner to where like, we haven't watched the explain video for like this yet, but every time they diss people, I feel like we learn either something new about like Korean culture or just something new about like the members respectively. Even from like either where they're from and shit.
Of like the word dang and everything, like kind of how many iterations that can have depending on the context it's used and everything. And that's something that's really interesting as far as, you know, even hearing it in variety content where it's just like, you know, fun.
Yeah, now we do.
We're like, oh, like that's
we get it now.
Yeah, we understand now. So it's just all that to say, like it's just it really adds to like even the cultural aspect of everything in general, which is incredible.
Yeah, so all that to say, like it's not only like you're getting a diss, it's also like you're getting homework too. And like fun homework, like just almost like you're creatively learning things without it being felt like you're like learning it from a classroom or anything like that. Like it's just like a fun way to learn it. So I respect them for that, and just shout out to them too with Rapline, where they always find unique ways to be themselves but still change up kind of the trajectory of the song. It's like if RM like come on smooth, then Suge might come on a little bit more, I don't want to use the word chaotic, but like a little bit more up-tempo. And then if J-Hope was to jump on, he might kind of match Suge's energy at first, but then get into like a melodic flow and like kind of switch up the trajectory of the song. You never get bored.
And with relation to his kind of, you know, immersion in the group in general and everything, it's, you know, it's not to say that RM and Suge like aren't, you know, vocally talented or anything like that, but it's something really unique as far as like how Hobie had to learn, you know, to rap and everything, and had to kind of, you know, take these influences, you know, and I know we saw it with like you know, Hip Hop Lover and kind of things like that, where they basically do talk about some of their influences and things like that. But even aside from that, or in, you know, addition to that, is to say that kind of, you know, Hobie's uses of his voice with his melodic flow is something that's always been really fascinating, to where it provides him like a unique kind of tool within his arsenal, no pun intended, arson. But to,
I guess
you want more? But it was, so all that to say is like kind of, it's something really unique to him specifically, so that kind of whenever, like they always use his verse as a really good flip within kind of some of that. And that's something I noticed particularly in like Outro Tier. Tomorrow had like a really great punch as far as, you know, bringing that. But all that to say, it's just something that I find really fascinating. And it's something they seem to use particularly within tracks like this as well. And, you know, nonetheless, I just think it adds a very unique dimension within the track. And of course, they're all talented to get melodic, and I know certainly we've seen that with, you know, Yoongi and his mixtapes and everything, and certainly with RM and his album and everything.
And all other stuff.
And I know we're going to get that with respect to what we see of D-Day too, of course. But all that to say, I just think that that's a really interesting kind of switch up, just to kind of double down on what you were saying.
Nah, and it makes sense because, like you said, they're all at a point now, obviously, in their rap career where like everybody can be really a chameleon and kind of get into whatever they want to. But like you said, it did feel good during those earlier times, at least for most of the music that we heard, that essentially J-Hope's voice is used as sequentially like a key change almost, to where it's just like, all right, we switched up some of the tone with like his voice inflections, and now it adds a different dynamic to the song. So yeah, so I'll fuck with that. Jake, anything with that, bro? I'm just talking.
No, sure, we're just living it. But I do like this. Really, the couple lines that stick out to me is I get angry at the anger that should have gotten lost or turned off. That is actually like really relevant, like today's life. Because what were you angry for? You're pissing me off by being angry at nothing. So it's really relevant. This song is definitely a diss in my opinion. It's to somebody. I don't know who, but they're definitely talking that shit, and I respect that.
Nah, and that's really what it is and shit. Whenever people are like rappers or MCs, which all of them, you know, definitely, well, I think at this point most of them considered like themselves to just be artists with being like MCs at heart. But just their energy to be able to address haters and just be able to like do it in slick fashion is just like really above everyone else, especially in the K world and mostly in rap world in general right now. Most people ducking fades or returns into something else. Yeah, anything else you want to get off, Kurt?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, kind of just the general kind of like I was just elaborating on a little bit more of the lyrics too, is just to say that this is actually really fascinating, is that, you know, and not making this about, you know, just D-Day, it just ironically relates to it. But basically, Suge kind of, you know, had, you know, stated, at least from what we understand, is that, you know, a bit of what August D had kind of represented, you know, throughout his journey was a little bit of basically that bottling up of that rage that's just kind of spilling into a mixtape, as far as like this alter ego of kind of the things that perhaps the idol side of him can't express or can't talk about quite the same. So you create like a character to kind of represent that. Anyway, all that to say is that, you know, his verse starting off with the rage and talking about, you know, the fire and everything, and we know how symbolic he's been represented with fire as far as that. But all that to say, and it's just, again, ironic with the timing of his, you know, album dropping and perhaps wrapping up of, you know, that character, or that part of him rather. But just to say that him starting off with the embodiment of that rage, of basically everything kind of like he's saying, you know, he's pouring out like kind of what all these thoughts are, how everything seems to kind of like build to that point, because basically he's saying like you swallow it, like you're seeing the sparks of kind of, you know, what that could represent, and then you're kind of swallowing it and trying to let it brush over. But he says eventually it reaches that oil where it now ignites and sparks. And I just think that was really creative as far as like how he tied that together. But again, you know, with what fire and everything is kind of represented for him. Anyway, all that to say, so he's basically, his part in the story is seemingly like that part, as far as like when everything becomes kind of rage and everything. Namjoon's part is kind of about, no, this isn't just rage. This is now exertion or excretion, I believe is the term he used, where it's like this is something I'm just getting out of me, as opposed to like it's more of, it's less of an offensive attack and more of a like deviation of like I'm trying to shed this away from me, which I think was a really unique perspective of kind of looking at it. And then basically Hope at the end, his part, which kind of puts everything together, ironically with Hope as far as like the sunshine, the bright spot, if you will, within everything, is kind of more of the healing of like, you know, like look at what rage does, is like goodwill or bad will, like it's all the same to me. Like it doesn't matter what your intentions are in saying this, it's a negativity that's going to permeate and kind of snowball into other things, to where it's like I don't even want that in my life, that negativity. And it seems like it's just like really ultimately like a bit of a, like it's a diss track, of course, or an addressing of kind of the hate, but it's something that's ultimately really healing at the same part, which is something I certainly didn't realize as much of the first time. Granted, with her, like how physically, kind of like the aggression they had when they were doing the live performance with like the boxing and everything on. But I think it's really ultimately like incredibly respectful, as far as like how they really articulated everything and went about it. And then basically for them to kind of get to the end and get to that place of like, you know, like, yes, this is the rage. Yes, we have reason to feel this way. But then ultimately the rationale of kind of exerting this anger is to get this part or shed something away, as opposed to like physically attacking someone or, you know, attacking someone with your lyrics or anything. So I think that was just really unique the way they kind of viewed rage as a whole perspective in general. And again, tying in some of the traditional elements in some of the production, perhaps, to kind of balance out that. But then you have the deep bass kicks and everything that's a lot more familiar with some of the aggressive type rap tracks and diss tracks for sure. So it was honestly just really interesting in general the way they went about this. And that's really without any of the, or nearly as much of the cultural aspect, as far as the context of everything, the wordplay and you know, things of that nature. So I'm really excited to kind of see like just how much more depth there is to this already incredibly layered track.
Yeah, is it music for the healing music?
Hey,
but nah, that's unique, man. Like I said, there's not too many groups that can like, you know, punch you in the mouth and then hand you like, you know, a napkin and like wipe yourself off now.
Basically,
it's all good now.
Not the Kingsmen. Colin Firth. Manners make it.
Manners make it to me. BTS lock you in the room and shit. Then after the lesson is taught, they just like, let this be a lesson to you. Now let's hug.
Yeah. Love yourself.
Love yourself. You said you.
Now that takes something though. That's tough.
If you loved yourself, you should have never been talking shit about Bun.
Mike.
No, man, but that's amazing, man. I'm interested now to see what the Explain video is like really going to get into.
Oh, for sure.
Just because, you know, for the most part, I feel like we do a good job. Especially a lot of times, y'all always say like these are like cold reads and cold listens, like no Google information or anything, just kind of spitting off the top of our head. So it's good to hear when we hit like some points. That the points was like real points and not just like reach for this.
And the thing that's ultimately like really amazing about that too is just to kind of, you know, double down on that, is just to say that really speaks so much to their artistry as well, is the fact that, you know, they're able to, you know, say what they're trying to say, layer it with as much, metaphors, cultural references, and things of that nature with respect to that, but then also have the reachability of kind of, other audiences being able to pick up on it and get their own interpretations and everything. Like that's just a lot of like kind of factors or ingredients to have to put into one dish, so to speak, or one track in this case. And they just do it time and time again, and it's honestly really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they to me, it's probably like a weird way to compare this. They're really like a good movie and a great director. I was always told, like, if you treat your audience like they're stupid, you're gonna get stupid results. If you treat the audience like they're smart, you're gonna wind up getting a good movie where you don't have to kind of. And I mean all that to say, like, you don't have to spoon feed people sometimes the way like other like artists do, or even the way certain movies do, to where it's just like, this is it, you get it, kind of. It's just like, no, this is it. If you get it, cool. This is simple, but also if you look at it this way, it's this as well, and it's just, that's decent and unique.
It's really like that with music. I feel like in general, it's like, and particularly with rap, is just when some people feel the need to call attention to some of their bars, or like, did you get it? Like, this is what my wordplay was, or whatever. Whereas some of the great artists are really able to almost hide and kind of speed past some of the depth of their lyrics, which is kind of an interesting concept in and of itself. But all the more so when you have to integrate multiple languages, cultural references, and so on and so forth. And that's just, they really do such a great job of that.
Just like great movies, again, it's all about the rewatchability value. And if you can keep going back to and if you can keep going back to that verse and you learn something new each time, then it's just like, you're no longer just rapping. Now you are an artist. Like, now this is art media. Yeah. It's gonna be still life.
Still life.
But yeah, you good, bro?
Awesome.
Jump in the comments, man. Tell us how y'all felt about this. Hit that subscribe button. Y'all know we just killed this shit. Like, y'all know we did. This is the best reaction really channel on the entire planet. I feel like y'all aren't just getting reactions here. You guys are actually talking to analysts and getting breakdowns. I treat our redeemers like analysts too, because you guys put us onto new information and fact checked us and like really steer us in the right direction. So, let's keep this going, man. Hit that subscribe button, become a real redeemer. Thank you guys for showing all the love and support. If you want to support us some more, jump on the Patreon. We have live versions of like this and really everything else BTS centric. About to jump into the explained version of this to kind of get a little bit more deep dive. We love you, Army. We're going to holler at y'all.
Take care.
Peace.